Hi, my name is David Whittier. I'm a sophomore who's majoring in communications and public relations here at Robert Morris University. And I am also a non-traditional student myself. I'm age 29. I'm returning to college after 7 years off. Because of that, I wrote and researched a paper this semester that was very important to me. And that's about the challenges that a non-traditional student faces in the traditional traditional university curriculum. I'd like to start out by defining what a traditional student is versus a non-traditional student. You tend to define a traditional student as anybody who's in the age range of about 18 to 22, with a small limiter towards 25, 23, 24 for the cases of people who only take 12 credits a semester. An adult learner is somebody who is aged 24 or over, lives off campus, and will often have external obligations to their education, which include a job, family, or social obligations. They face unique challenges because of this, and because of their natural disconnect from campus, which include increased anxiety and increased attrition. But they also bring unique skills and capabilities to the classroom. Now, I'd like to talk. One of the first studies I researched was done by Charlotte Minnick, Elizabeth Warren, Pat Warren, and several other researchers, which is called Traditional Students and Adult Learners: Is There a Difference in High-Stakes Test Scores? What they used was the Praxis 2, which was originally a test used to evaluate those who were going to be teaching grades kindergarten through about your last year of high school. This was defined as a high-stakes test because it has clear parameters, clear assessment, and a clear pass-fail. It was also a general aptitude test and meant to test a broad spectrum of knowledge. What they found was that among their students that were tested, traditional students who had continued their education on the age 22 and then came knowing and being trained by a school system to take tests had a 4% failure rate. However, non-traditional students had one that was 15%. This was almost 4 times higher, as you can see by, I made a handy little chart right there. There are many reasons to attribute to this, one of the most of which being that studies find that the Western school of teaching and the Western style of education focuses on objective evaluation over subjective understanding of course material. And why non-traditional students struggle with this is because that 6 to 7 year gap that they take after high school, coming back to school at 24, 25, 26, they've acquired life skills, they've acquired work skills, and I'm sure anybody in this room who's ever held a job can tell you, no career you have, no job you ever work is objectively evaluated. You are subjectively evaluated by superiors, by coworkers, and by those who you work with. And so they're not used to hard objective evaluation that traditional college requires. Now, and so the problem is that they return to these schools and they struggle with many of these skills because they come back and they find themselves unable to use these skills that they've acquired in the real world, that they've been reliant on for all this time. It no longer works. And their professors expect them to have these skills because they expect all students coming into their class to have traditional education skills. The longer a student is away from university, the worse this can become. And this begins to affect many different things. It can affect their, as I'm sure you can aware, once your self-confidence has been eroded, anxiety increases. Anxiety really leads to a lower retention rate in education. A lower retention rate in education results in severe underperformance. And what this does is that this impacts in a very heavy way student attrition. Many campuses that hold on-campus events, likewise, will also find that because of the way the traditional students structure, they expect their students to live on campus. And many of the events that larger campuses have focus towards students that they expect to be living on campus. Students they expect to be engaging every day because it's required. If you live in one of our dorms that we have here in Robert Morris, you can't walk across campus without coming across a campus event. But credit to Robert Morris, they also send out frequent emails for students who don't live on campus. Not all campuses do this. And that lack of inclusion in a social aspect will impact those students who no longer feel they can engage with their campus for events such as tutoring or coming on campus to email their professors or speak with them during office But not just that, financial aid, stability, and job security also plays a factor. Because attrition rates between these demographics are that 15.7% of all students, of all traditional students in universities countrywide right now are expected to drop out next semester. This number increases sharply to non-traditional students who have permanent employment will have a 35.3% dropout rate. And it sharply increases again towards non-traditional students who are only able to engage in temporary employment. And if you look at that on a graph, it's actually quite staggering. Over half of non-traditional students with, or almost half of non-traditional students with temporary employment will not be returning to campuses next semester. So you wonder what can be done. Well, one of the strongest things a university can offer are online classes, because this allows a student to engage with their coursework, to learn on their own schedule, and it allows them to flexibly work to balance their professional life and their class life. But not only that, a strong job and career center, which fosters their students working in the community, can help provide financial stability for those students who are temporarily employed and expected to drop out. Also important are same-age tutoring programs, because it can be hard from an anxiety standpoint and a self-confidence standpoint for somebody who's 26, 27, 28, 29, 30 to try to come to a tutor who's almost a decade their senior, who's almost a decade their junior. A strong financial aid office, which is able to provide full portfolios and knowledge of student loans, of scholarships, who's able to help work out payment plans. That can also affect. And when you've engaged these students in this way, they've actually shown that they will bring skills and attributes that are quite different from their traditional peers. In-class assessments and evaluations taken from teachers show that when non-traditional students are engaged, on average, they'll ask 8% more questions in class. They'll submit 21% more drafts for research papers in communication, and they will be 11% more prepared with homework and materials. In conclusion, it's non-traditional students facing many challenges that traditional students do not, but it's not the university's full expectation to mitigate this. However, the universities should be willing to meet them halfway, engaging these students, providing them with financial aid or information on where they can get that financial aid, and careers where possible. And as numbers increase for traditional students, especially over the last 10 years since financial aid has become available, it has become apparent that upwards of 75% of students currently in university could be considered non-traditional in some aspect, whether that's because they work while they study, they're from a financially challenged background, or they're just somebody who won't be living on campus for financial reasons. And 58% of those students in the next year's enrollments will be considered adult learners in that age range I studied of 24 and above. So it's important for universities to keep up with this changing and growing demographic, because you'll begin to see that universities who are able to keep up with this, Robert Morris being a wonderful example of this, if you look at this campus's engagement programs, will begin to flourish and will gain a notoriety. However, campuses which cannot keep up with this are going to continue to suffer from increased attrition, and they're going to begin losing students in droves as financial aid makes it more available. That is the conclusion of my presentation. Thank you for your time.
Are there any questions?
From your research or experience, is there a way of dealing with that gap between objective grading and subjective grading?
Yes, there is, and I actually really enjoy that question. When you have professors who are as focused on giving tests as they are with engaging with their students, a great example is, for instance, balancing both an objective metric with, say, a subjective essay that allows the application of perspective and personal experience into what they've learned in that class. That can show a distinct difference and an increase in exam scores when it's balanced between those two things.